Welcome to the Purveyors of Health meetups. This is the High Vibe Tribe Tuesday. We do Thursday as well with special guests. This week we have a special guest on Tuesday, which is not normal, but we have a very special guest. My friend Peter, he's here today. He's going to be sharing his health journey. And we always keep this sacred container here for people who are, elevating the consciousness of humanity, people who are purveyors of health. And so I just want to bring in Peter. You're out there, Peter? What's going on, man?
Yeah, I'm all right. How are you?
Good, man. Thank you for being here. I know you've just gotten started on your health journey again recently, and
Yep.
we'd like to learn more about you, man. So why don't you tell people about yourself and kind of what your journeys look like so far?
Yeah. I was when I was like when I was born, I was diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, and I was put on Ritalin, Adderall, and all that stuff. Then I found out later I can concentrate without that prescription, without ADD or ADHD or Ritalin or any of that stuff they were giving me. I was put in like special ed. And then when I was a teenager, some girl said I harassed her. And that's when I first self-harmed. And like if I cut myself deeper, I would have cut a vein. And that was bad the first time I cut myself. And then at age 19, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease. Like I lost a lot of weight and like they didn't know what it was. I was like put through chemo and radiation. It was, I think, 6 weeks of chemotherapy and like 2 weeks of radiation. And then that really messed up my thyroid gland. All that radiation they gave me, like, it messed up my thyroid gland. It was like 2 weeks of straight radiation, like Monday through Friday radiation, 2 weeks. And they're like, oh, I gained weight. And then they found out it was my thyroid. And then what else happened?
What can you tell us, Peter? Can you tell us what the thyroid gland does and how does it affect you?
Like, if I don't take it, I can't like eat because I don't know how to explain it. It was like, I guess I can't like swallow perfectly if I don't take it. And my thyroid's out of whack if I don't take my pill every day in the morning. And I can answer any questions about like cancer. It was the worst thing I've ever went through. Like I even had a bone marrow test, which came out like negative. And they said I was going to lose my hair. Well, during radiation, I lost some of my hair. It started falling off on my pillow. And I've been like 21 years cancer free. And then at age 29, 30, 31, they're like, oh, you got to go do a colonoscopy. And then I did one. And they said it was colon cancer. Then I did a second one. They're like, okay, it's clean. And that's when I really started with my health journey. I did a cleanse with another company. And then I did a cleanse with another company. And then I lost all that weight and then gained it all back. And what else? Gained it all back. And then like in 2017, 18, my grandfather died. And then I went to Greece and gained weight. And then I lost all that weight. And then after that, I kept losing weight and kept losing weight. And then the Corona happened, and then I kept losing weight. And then I got introduced to Purium from Esther. And she's like, oh, why don't you try this? And I did it, and I feel so much better than ever. After I did the 30-day ultimate lifestyle transformation, I felt so much better. Like, I can't eat like the regular food that I used to eat before. And I was diagnosed with, during cancer, I was diagnosed with depression. And so all my life I had like suicidal thoughts and thoughts of suicide. And that wasn't good. I was put on antidepressant after antidepressant. I was put on Prozac. I was put on Celexa. I was put on Zyprexa. And all those side effects, I was reading the side effects. I'm like, why the hell am I on these pills? Thoughts of suicide, suicidal thoughts. And I asked my parents, why am I taking these pills? I don't have thoughts of suicide. Well, I did at the time. And after Purium, after I did the ultimate lifestyle transformation, I kept losing weight. And then my parents were like, oh, you got to go see a nutritionist. And I was like, okay, I'll go see a nutritionist. And she's like, oh, you're 15% body fat. And then she made me do and then I also drank a lot of coffee to suppress my appetite. And she's like, oh, you have a poor, and then I did a metabolic test, which means I find out how much calories I burn just by sitting in a chair. And she's like, you burn like this much calories and you should be eating more. Needless, I know that all that suppressing and restricting calories for 2 years will lead to my eating disorder. Because she's like, oh, you have a poor relationship with food. You should go talk to a therapist. I'm like, okay. And she's like, oh yeah, you have an eating disorder. I'm like, great. And then I also told her I self-harmed 2 weeks ago. Me and my brother got into a fight, and I just started cutting myself. And I'm like, and I have been cutting myself for like 6 weeks now. And like, everybody started getting a fight with me and calling me unhealthy, and that's what led to my relapse. And before that, I was like 7 years clean off that self-harming and all that stuff. I was 7 years clean, and I was 2 months away from like being 8 years. And I'm like, how the hell did I throw all that shit down the drain? And I'm like, what an idiot I am. I just threw 7 years down the drain just for one little fight with my brother. And then I was running home, and I was like, wouldn't it be great if I just jumped off this fucking bridge and just ended it all? After I got in a fight with my like family member. And I'm like, yeah, it would be great if I just jumped off a bridge. Nobody would care. And after that, I was like, going a deep dark hole. I would just listen to like depressing ass music, like, and then my parent, like last Saturday, my parents found out, like, let me see your arm. I'm like, okay. you're self-harming. Great. My father got mad. He took all my knives, and today they're like, "Oh, what's wrong with your arm?" Everybody started asking what was wrong with my arm. I'm like, I cut myself. Mhm. And I know I need to stop before it's too late. I know I need to stop, and now I'm trying to find a therapist, like, to get it all out of me, because it's not good. It's not good. Self-harming is the worst thing you could do to yourself. And any questions you guys can ask, go ahead, ask. I'm all ears.
Thank you, Peter, for sharing. I know it's not easy, but I know you're not alone, man. I know I used to self-harm
Really?
myself also. Yeah. It's been a while, but
Yeah.
it's
The worst thing.
just because someone's not cutting themselves doesn't mean they're not self-harming either. There's
Yeah.
other ways of,
Yeah, eating disorder,
self-harm.
like restricting calories, eating disorder. And I'm like, oh, I stopped self-harming, but restricting calories is also a form of self-harm too. And I'm like, and that's what led to my eating disorder, me drinking tons of coffee and suppressing my appetite, and like chugging coffee whenever I like gained weight and getting pissed off at myself. And like my family's like, oh, you're too fat. And then they say the opposite. When I lose all the weight, they're like, you're too skinny. And I'm just sick and tired of being labeled, or you're too skinny. And some guy at the job site, he's like, what's wrong with your brother? I'm like, are you seriously kidding me? What's wrong with my brother? He's like, and then my brother's like, oh, it's a sensitive topic. I'm like, yeah. And then I just say straight to his face, I have an eating disorder. And I'm like, the hell? Either I'm too skinny or I'm too fat. They can't make up their minds. And I'm just sick and tired of these labels. And I'm like, just leave me alone. Just leave me the hell alone sometimes. I just wish like my family would just leave me alone and let me be me. I'm just sick and tired of being labeled. I'm anorexic, I'm eating disorder, I'm this, I'm that, I'm a freak. This is the worst part. When my family first found out, they're like, well, you want everybody to call you a psychopath? And I'm like, I'm not a psychopath. I just deal with my emotions that way, you know. It's a dark hole. I wish not even on my worst enemy. I
Peter,
don't
I don't
like,
know if it's okay if I can chime in really quick, but
yeah,
I
sure.
definitely I totally resonate. I went through a huge weight loss journey, and
Yeah.
when I lost the weight, I thought everybody around me was gonna be like, "Yeah, congratulations, you did it!" Da da da. Like
Yeah.
it was something I really wanted. I wound up going on 2 medications, really against my better judgment, because parents and family wanted me to go on them. So I have something called PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. But I got on 2 medications that made me really, really, really ill. And I stayed on them for about 3 months. During those 3 months, I could not keep food down. I was extremely sick all the time. And I was then told and asked multiple times by my family if I was puking myself, if I was, deliberately making myself sick. Was I self-harming? Was I suicidal? Why am I losing so much weight? Why do I look like this? And when the people closest to us say those things, it can really weigh us down and just feel like such an overwhelm and so unfair and just cruel. And it really, makes us just feel so small and like we don't matter. But something that I will say is the thing that got me over that extremely brutal hump was my mindset. Nobody can ever take your mindset away. Nobody can ever challenge your emotions. Nobody can ever steal your greatness or the heart that you have. So I think it sounds like you're still kind of going through something right now. So I just wanted to shed some light and let you know that people can only take away your power and, call you names and do these things if you allow them to. And if you stop allowing, their words into your mind, because it's not true. You know what you're going through and you can only express it, but nobody else can feel what you're feeling. But if truly inside of yourself, like, no, I know I'm not crazy. This is just how I'm feeling. And maybe I express it in ways that are harmful to me, but that's something that you're going to need to navigate. And I just want to let you know that you're better and you're worth more than, the self-harm and the hurt and the things that you're going through. So I just want to remind you that you are a beautiful light, in this world. The fact that you're sharing and being open and vulnerable, tells me that you want to A, inspire other people who are going through what you're going through, and B, you're looking for a support system of people who are also lights. And what those people, it sounds like this group can do is they can hold some light for you when you can't hold it for yourself until you're able to just shine. So I'm new here. I don't know if I was able to speak. Hopefully that resonated or helped you in some way, shape, or form. I felt your heaviness and I felt your sadness. And I just wanted to give you even like an ounce or a sprinkle of hope. So yeah, sending you a lot of love. Hopefully you're doing okay.
I also been binging. I gotta tell you guys the truth. I also been binging and purging for like 2 years now too. So like I, whenever I felt like I ate something bad, I was bad. Like one time I ate 3 pieces of cake and I was like, I'm gonna puke it all out. And I was like, I feel like shit. So I'm like, okay. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna puke it all out. Every time I would feel bad, like last Sunday, I was like, I drank a lot and this and that, and I'm like, all right, now I feel like shit, so I'm gonna go purge it all out, which is not good for my stomach or nothing. I know that, but that's how I dealt with my feelings. And my brother got mad at me, and I went to my room to like self-harmed again. And I was like, my mom's like, "What's all this blood?" I'm like, "What happened?" And there's like blood on my sheets, and I'm like, "This is great." And my dad's like, "Oh, what'd you do?" I'm like, "I self-harmed again," because my brother got mad at me, and it was Mother's Day. I just get my emotions out by hurting myself, so I don't hurt other people. I'm like,
hey, Peter.
Yo.
It's Asterope.
Hi.
I just want to say that I'm really proud of you for coming out here. I mean, I can't stop crying because I've known you since you were a little kid, and our stories are very similar regarding our families and our health journey. And you were one of the first people I thought of when I was introduced to this. And I know what you're going through with family. That's why I left, and I haven't been back home for 3 years because it's a lot of stuff to deal with. But you're on the right path. I know you told me you were nervous about coming on here.
Yeah.
You're amazing. And like I told you, you are special, but not in the way that they were trying to make you out to be special. I think you're a handsome man. I think you're very intelligent. I think you're very smart. I think you're going to inspire a lot of people. And the girl that spoke before, what she said, take what she said. Like, she took a lot of that weight off of you with her work, and yeah, and I told you, we're here for you. And the only way that I could get out of that situation, what you're going through, self-harm, my family locked me up in an institution for 7 weeks, so it was the cancer. Our stories are similar. Our families know each other. They don't understand. And I think your family, you were afraid to tell them that you ordered Purium, correct?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And yeah, and I was telling you, you should be proud of what you ordered. But I understand the family, and you live with them, so that's going to be another thing. For me, I finally leave in order to take that next step. But you're healing yourself, and yeah, I just wanted to say I love you, and I'll see you soon. Okay, in a couple of months, and we're going to hang out, like see each other. But I'm going to let anybody else ask any questions. I just wanted to come on here and say that I knew this would help you. I knew you would start getting and I connected you with people like Angelo, because yeah, I'm a woman in my 50s, you need like some guidance too, because you're like home, your brother and your mom and your dad, and you work with them too. So you don't have any other outside influences, So yeah, thank you, Angelo, for doing this call with him. And I love this platform. I love you guys who are all supporting him. And yeah, that's it, Peter.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Sometimes the people that are the most toxic for us are the people that are closest to us, and like I always keep hearing the saying, like you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around. And sometimes those people that don't even realize it or that are so toxic are the people that are closest to you. And so I know that's happened for me too, that I have to put distance between myself and those people, not just physical distance, but just like emotional distance, because, we all don't see you that way, Peter. We're not related to you, but you're like a part of our community and our family here. So, just because someone has the same blood as you does not necessarily mean that that's what you chose. That's just something that you're dealing with, but you do have community here, bro. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate you, man. I mean, being vulnerable is like the greatest strength that anybody can have. The people that don't want to speak up and say what they're going through, they're not as strong as people that can be brave like you, man, and say it. So I honor you, bro.
Thanks, bro.
I can tell you're a good man. You always are here to help other people too, which says a lot about your character.
I was like nervous about coming on here because I'm like, oh, they're gonna say something like, I've been called freak, psychopath, and people just like, oh, you do that just because you're frustrated with yourself. I'm like, yep. I'm like, I don't want to be like, I was nervous. I was like, oh, they could label me, or they like, because most of the people I know like freak out when they hear self-harm, cutting, suicide, and I'm like, and they're like, and these people, you guys are accepting of what I'm going through. Most people in my life, you're a freak, you're a psycho. One of my family members like, do you want everybody to call you a psychopath? And they're like, oh, you either go camping with us, or I'm going to tell your father you're hurting yourself. They threaten you. I'm like, okay, I'm going to say it. And if she sees it, if one of my family sees it again, I'm going to tell them, like, if you think I'm a psychopath, then I am a psychopath.
It's so powerful, man. It's so powerful what comes after the words I am. Make sure that those are not negative words, because anybody can think whatever they want to about me or whoever. It's all that matters is what you think about you. And you're awesome, man. You're a good person. You're a good human being. And anyone that, the saying, hurt people, right? So the people that are saying this shit to you, they're going through pain. And so they're pushing that pain on you, because anyone that really loves themselves is not going to say those things to you. So, it's important, I think, for all of us to have compassion for those people who are hurting us, because they are in a place where they're not okay.
Yeah, Angelo, I was bullied in high school too. I was so bullied. I went from like Norwalk to Buchanan, and everybody's like, you listen to hip hop? And I was like, yeah. I'm like, oh, we just listen to rock and heavy metal here. I'm like, okay. After the Columbine shooting happened, I was like, maybe I was like relating with those kids. I'm like, I understand how they feel outcasted because they were listening to Marilyn Manson and playing video games. And I was like, yeah, I can relate to those kids. In class, I got in trouble for like drawing a picture of like somebody killing somebody. And like, you think this is a joke? I'm like, no, I just relate to those kids. Those kids were outcasted just like me. Like, yeah, it's not a joke, but they were picked on to the point where they couldn't take it anymore and they shot up their school. And I'm like, yeah, I can relate to those kids. And it's not the video games, it's not the music, it's the kids. If you pick on a kid so much where he can't take it anymore, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen, and school shootings happen all the time. But kids pick on kids until they break. And some people are like, it's the violent video games. No, it's not. It's the way you take the violent video games. If you know it's all fake, then you're not going to shoot nobody. But if you can't escape what's reality and what's not reality, then you're going to go shoot kids. And half of it's the antidepressant these kids are on. I mean, I took Prozac and I had an allergic reaction to it. I still take antidepressants from now, but I'm not allergic to the antidepressants I take now. I just feel tired when I take it. So I'm like,
Well, now, oh, go ahead.
I just want to say that I see a beautiful light being and an amazing, strong man. And I'm so grateful that you're here with us and we're your family. And I love you. And as long as you're here, we're going to make sure that you hear the good things that you missed out growing up because we love you. And we're going to make sure that we show each other. That's what we do. That's why I love this community. We have so much love for one another, and you're like our family. You're right here, and I'm very grateful that you're here, and I get to know you, and you're part of us. We are one, and I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for sharing, brother.
I just had to get it out of me because that's the one thing I know with like depression, keeping things bottled up inside, you're gonna explode. You know, keeping all that shit bottled up inside of you is no good. Because I know what it's like to keep things bottled up inside. Like when my grandfather died, I was like 2 weeks, I was freaking depressed. I was like, and then my brother's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I miss my grandpa. It was the most depressing thing I ever did. Went through, and then this year I lost my grandma who had Alzheimer's, and then 40 days later, my grandfather. Not even 40, like the day before the 40 days, he's like, oh, your grandfather died. And then I just kept it inside of me. And I think that's what led to my self-harm, my relapse. And I'm like, this is bad. 2 weeks, 40 days after one after the other, I'm like, this is so fucked up. I mean, my grandma, she had Alzheimer's, so she starts forgetting. And the last time I saw her, she forgot who I was. But my grandfather was like close to, and I was like, oh, I'm going to see him this summer. So I was sleeping, and then I hear my mom crying, and then I couldn't go back to sleep. You're like, oh, I'm like, I go in the room, grandfather, I'm like, my grandfather passed away. She's like, yep, he passed away. And I was like, great. One after the other. I wasn't expecting it at all. It was a shock. It was like 2 a.m. They're like, yeah, your grandfather died. I'm like, great. One after the other. Which sucks to lose both your grandfather in 1 year. My grandmother Christmas, and then my grandfather like 2 months after Christmas.
That same thing. Hey, Peter, this
Yep.
is Travis over here from Maine. I really appreciate you sharing, and I hope you can feel the weight off your chest a little bit. Just wanted to relate to you there. My one of the worst years of my life is when my grandmother died, and it was in October. And then my grandfather died literally the same year. So she died in October and he died in July. And it's just wanted to relate to you there and just say I see you, and I feel your pain, because that was one of the roughest years for me too. That's when my physical body couldn't take any more of the stress, and that's when I got sick myself. It was a very hard year for me. And so you're right about repressing your emotions. When you hold all that stuff in, it can really, really hurt. That's why I love the group here. It's not just about eating healthy and, all that stuff. It's also about spiritual and mental and emotional growth as well. That's all part of our health journey. We can eat as clean as we want and as clean as we can be, but without the spiritual and emotional aspect, we're not completing everything that we need. It's all like, we need to be clean mentally, we need to be clean physically and spiritually, and this group allows us to share and grow. So just acknowledging you and everybody here. Thank you everybody for being here. I'm really glad I showed up and honored to be with all of you.
I'd like to share one thing if I could, Peter. I'm really new here too, and but I have a lot of trauma in my background from childhood, and then clear up until more recently. My 13-year-old son passed in a very violent way, and I found him, so I have complex PTSD. But one of the things that I think, as I've been listening to your story, I think what's so important is learning how to love yourself and how to speak to yourself with kindness. Because I think one of the things that was so dramatic for me was in many ways, PTSD kind of feels like your brain's gotten hijacked, and there's the flashbacks, and the emotions are so out of control, and it just so many things I'm still learning how to figure out, and how to take control of my own mental well-being and spiritual well-being, which also just like what the gentleman said before about our food, our spiritual health is so important. And I think one of the things I've learned in this journey has been taking everything just step by step, moment by moment, step by step, and try not to get too far ahead or looking too far into the past, but learning, one of the things that I've kind of learned is speaking to myself like I would, if there was a little child that was before you that was suffering or struggling or saying unkind things to themselves, look at ourselves as a child, and how would you speak to a child with love, with consideration, with care? If those voices in your head are saying you're a psychopath or saying things that are unkind, you can say, oh, wait a minute, I would never say those things to a child, or I
Yeah.
wouldn't say those things to my best friend. So why would I say them about me? And
Yeah.
so like maybe even just starting with something small of like, what are the things that are true about who you are? You know, that you're kind, that you're loving, that, you know, and focus on the things that are good about who you are, and really let that other stuff go, those narratives, those that self-talk that can be really damaging to our souls. Like learn how to speak to yourself with like love and care. I think that's been a huge healing tool for myself. It's, you know, changed, because in the beginning when this PTSD stuff was showing up for me, I was like, oh, I'm crazy, or I've lost my mind, or, you know, I would say these things about like in my head, I would say them. And then it kind of like manifested into, oh, I'm probably never going to get better. I'm probably never going to be normal. And so then I started writing that out on a paper and I'd burn it. I'd write all that junk out and then I'd burn it and I'd pray and I'd ask God to help me change my narrative. And so just little steps, little things that just take it step by step would be my advice to you. And I see you, and just sending you a lot of love.
Thank you. I also suffer from low self-esteem, which makes me say, "Oh yeah, you're a psycho. I would like say like everybody would be better if I was not around, or the world would be better if I was not around." And so this all just suffers from my low self-esteem and my low self-confidence. And I'll be like, maybe the world would be better. I've written maybe 2-3 suicide notes saying goodbye to everyone, and I would have all these suicidal thoughts, and low self-esteem comes from that. Like, oh, I hate myself and I want to die. Like, why would you say that? Well, I'm like, that's how I feel. And it's people like when I was in high school being bullied, and that's what led to more and more low self-esteem. Like that girl that was in high school. Well, like, yeah, I harassed you. How the hell did I harass you? I was just trying to be a nice guy, and you said I harassed you. I never harassed you. And she's like, she made me feel so bad. I went home and cut myself for the first time. And I haven't spoken to that girl since, because she put me through trauma. And she made me hate myself to the point where I'm like, and then I was like, my parents found out, and then they sent me to a school psychiatrist. So all through high school, I was put in the school psychiatrist office. I never had a high school, like, my high school life was, you got to go see your school psychologist. I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right. And me and that girl have not spoken since. And she's like, oh, you remember me? Yeah. I was really like, do you remember what you did to me? Like, you made me feel so bad that I wanted to kill myself. But I didn't say that to her. And I was like, forget you.
Well, I know just from being a teenager and a kid that kids do a lot of fucked up shit. They say a lot of mean stuff, and that's usually because they're being bullied either at home or by some other kid. It's like the cycle of abuse kind of trickles down on the next person, and then like you get it, you ended it by hurting yourself rather than picking on somebody else. Yep. It just keeps going and going and going. And dude, I totally understand that, because, you know, I was bullied a lot when I was younger. I was always smaller, and I was, you know, bullied severely, and had some of those deep suicidal thoughts as well. And man, it's like, there's a lot of messed up shit in society going on too. So, yeah. And it even can tie it into with the food. I mean, kids are eating, like Shiva was saying earlier, like kids eating crap food. They have like their head's not right, their spirit's not right. They're
drinking Coca-Cola and all that stuff.
Right. And then, you know, that's going to mess with your hormones and mess with your way you act and think. But I wanted to share something that's I think it's a pretty profound quote by Brene Brown, who she talks a lot about vulnerability. And I thought this might relate to you, and to all of us, actually, not just you, but all of us. It says, she says, owning our story can be hard, but not nearly as difficult as spending our lives running from it. Embracing our vulnerabilities is risky, but not nearly as dangerous as giving up on love and belonging and joy, the experiences that make us the most vulnerable. When we are brave enough to explore the darkness, we will discover the infinite power of our light. So don't give up on yourself, man. There's going to be dark times for all of us, and there's going to be good times too. Just be, I would say for all of us, it's important to be very intentional about the words that we speak, because when we say things like I can't, or I'm not, or I wish, or I hope, that's something we've been programmed with for just a long time. And when we start to recognize the power that you have, Peter, as a healer, as a purveyor of health, because you are, because people that haven't gone through anything close to what you've gone through probably don't have the capacity to help other people in the way that you are going to help other people. So, you know, I see you, man. Thank you for being brave, and thank you for being here, man. I know it's not easy, but you did great. You're awesome.
Thanks, man. I was like nervous. I was nervous about speaking my story.
Man, I really appreciate, man, you are doing such a great thing by just coming on here and just speaking your truth, man, because I wish more people did that, man, because just very recently I lost my uncle to depression. And his thing was that he wanted someone to speak to, and so I lost he lost his father, my granddad, earlier this year in February. And he was suffering from depression for the last 2 months. And COVID got him and he succumbed to that, you know. He didn't have to because he was very young. He used to be one of the healthiest individuals I've known. But depression, man, it got the best of him, and his body couldn't fight the disease. And I mean, I feel fortunate that he didn't have to suffer for too many days.
Yeah.
But I just wish he had someone to share his grief with, you know. And I wish I was there for him. Yeah. But, you know, I'm just so glad to be here, man, because if ever in the future, if I'm in that position, I know I can come on here and share with you guys, you know. Sadly enough, it wasn't possible for my uncle, but I'm just so glad you're doing that, and you're making me feel, giving me courage to do that myself, you know.
Yeah, my uncle also died of colon cancer, so yeah, colon cancer runs in the family of our genealogy. It's bad. That's why my uncle's like, oh, you should go get a colonoscopy. I'm like, okay. And because like my uncle was like, oh, I'm not gonna do it until he got stage 4 colon cancer. And like I went to Greece one year and I came back and I knew something was wrong. Like I can sense when people are gonna pass away before it happens. Like my dad's like, is everything okay? She's like, yeah, everything's okay. Then I come back from Greece and like, all right. My cousin's like, yeah, my grandfather died. I'm like, what? I'm like, my grandfather passed away, 59, from colon cancer. That's why I'm like, well, I should just go get one. When it's like stage 4, it's the worst. When stage 4 colon cancer, it's the worst, or any stage 4, it's the worst. That's you're dead. And I'm glad I just went and got it done because cancer is the worst. It's the worst thing I've ever experienced. especially the bone marrow test, because I hate needles too. And I was screaming and crying, and I'm like, this hurts, because they shoved a needle right into my back. I was like, this hurts. This really hurts. You know, like when I got a thyroid test a couple months ago, and like it might be thyroid cancer, and then that's when all your anxiety comes. And then they found out it was benign. I was like, thank you, God, it was benign. Because if I had thyroid cancer, it would have been nothing, but they would just cut it out. No chemo, no radiation, but I'm glad it was benign. I don't pray to God often, but when I do, I say I'm sorry for everything I've done. Because I was like the biggest atheist ever. And I'm like, maybe there is a God, maybe there isn't. I don't know. I'm still searching for spirituality.
Eva, you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I had no idea this call was going to be this, and I'm so glad it is, because what we're all able to do by bearing witness to the unbearable suffering at a deep level. For many of us, it's a much deeper level than what certainly was deeper than what I had to deal with today. And I was really stuck in my own suffering today. And we can't opt into anyone else's suffering. We can only walk in our own shoes, but we can bear loving witness and practice this thing called compassion for real, just by being here to listen and to be together in this. You know, we don't have to just be together when it's all cash and prizes. Things are great. And we get to be together to bear witness to the unbearable. And when we do that, we grow together. And I just am witnessing a whole bunch of powerful souls growing together. And the courage here is beyond inspiring, not only from Peter, but the women who shared and Sanam who just shared. It's just, and the other men, everyone who's spoken, it's a defiant act of courage in the modern age of fakery and forgery and fuckery. Talking about the real stuff right here. And that you, Angelo, have opened a platform, a space, a home where these kinds of conversations can take place is really, really extraordinary. It's not the norm, and that's a good thing. And I ran into a quote this morning in the midst of my own suffering, and I thought it was for me, and it was for me. But I want to share it because I realize it wasn't just for me. If that would be all right. In the depth of winter, I finally learned that there was within me an invincible summer. In the depth of winter, I finally learned that there was within me an invincible summer. Albert Camus, who is the oppressive fuck. I mean, who would have known that he would have come with such a illuminating quote? I don't know his writing to be like that, but there it is. And what I see in Peter and all of us is an invincible summer buried deep down. And I'm going to keep digging because I want to. It's funny, man, Angelo, you mentioned this I am stuff. This kept me up at night. I think I had a spiritual experience, very inconvenient. I was trying to get some sleep, right? I had taken my apothecary. I was getting that, about to slip into that good apothecary kind sleep. You know, it's like the kind, right? We know. If you know, you know, we know. I was about to slip into that cradle, and then all of a sudden there was this activation. Maybe Natalie will tell me what was going on in the cosmos the other night, but the stars were popping in my room because I had this insight about this thing, Angelo, that you're talking about, which is why I'm bringing it up, about I am and the power of I am. But I am what? You know, I'm a guy trying to lose weight. I am losing a lot of weight, changing my body.
It's Travis here. You're an infinite being.
Yeah. Yeah. But I was stuck.
You're an infinite
Thank you,
being,
bro.
my friend.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I was stuck in that specific, like I'm right limited to like, you know, this guy trying to take some weight off, or a guy trying to make money in, you know, the pyramid economy, or a guy trying to help people, you know, just, but like the bigger level that Travis just opened the door for, it really hit me, for me. And anybody is welcome to use this as well and borrow it if it lands on you in your heart. Peter, if this works for you, bro, please share it with me, brother. Share it with me. I am the guy who climbs out of the hole. I'm a guy who could get thrown into the hole and then been thrown in the hole, and I'm the guy who climbs out of the hole. That's who the fuck I am. I'm the guy who climbs out of the hole. And you can, bro. You can fight. You're not alone. Fight. I just want to drop a few resources that really saved my life. And it's an audio book. You get the written book, but the audio book read by the author helps straighten me out about suffering, my own suffering. He's a clinical psychologist, Jungian psychologist, pretty famous guy, Dr. Jordan Peterson. He wrote a book called 12 Rules for Life, the audio book. If you can't go see a therapist, man, I recommend. That's a resource that saved my fucking life. And Tim Ferriss wrote a powerful blog post. You can Google Tim Ferriss, Practical Thoughts on Suicide. There's some incredible writing in that, and very personal, very revealing. And bro, fight, man. You're not alone. I pray that you have received this love. You know, each one of these squares is a soul, and they're looking at you, and they're beaming their heart, and they're beaming it at you, and they're here to bear witness to everything you've unpacked, bro. And I hope after this call ends, I pray to God you take that with you in your heart in some way, even if it's just a little bit, that you've been seen, you've been witnessed, you've been heard. I don't know if you've been able to look into these squares, but everyone's listening. Nobody's fucking around with some other stuff. People are listening to you, and they're feeling you, and they're open to everything you've shared, which is some really hard, brutal shit to hear. More brutal for you to go through it, but brutal for us to receive it. And we're here with it. We're here for it. And thank you, bro. We're all stronger beings because you brought us together, man, in a way that we never could have come together like this. So that's just a small sliver of the power you actually have and the work you're actually doing, even if you don't think you're doing anything. Look what you've accomplished tonight. I'm not just saying this trying to make you fucking feel better, bro. I'm telling you the truth. There's no time to not be with the truth here. Who you are is extraordinary. And if you think I'm fucking bullshitting you, just look at all these souls that are reflecting at you. They're beautiful, real souls with you, man. And I wish I didn't have to get off. I have an appointment I can't miss. Otherwise, I'd stay till the last second. But I love you, man. And
I love you too, man.
If Jordan Peterson 12 Rules for Life reaches you, it fucking literally saved my life. So I just felt obligated to share with you. If you think it's whack, forget I ever said it. Okay. But I felt pretty obligated to come with that. Also, he gives 2 talks on the psychology of Noah and the flood. Those are available on YouTube and podcast. That really helped me. So I feel if nothing else I could do, share that encouragement and those resources and that Tim Ferriss post that Angelo put on Practical Thoughts on Suicide by Tim Ferriss. Just Google that and you'll get it. Please read the entire thing if you're going to read it. Because what he says in the very end, after the whole, it's a long thing. He really came with it. And it's deeply personal. And he never talked about this before. And it was pretty courageous for a famous guy like that to talk about it. And when you read what he says, brother, in the very end, you'll know that you have a kindred spirit in that man. And you I pray you feel more accepted and seen and connected. And please take us with you. Take a piece of us with you when you go tonight. Okay, brother? Thank you.
All right, brother.
Thank you guys, all of you, for staying. I want to really thank you, Peter, the most, man, because you really, you made my day, man, just for sharing and being strong, bro. So thank you, everybody. We're going to wrap it up because we got a little over the hour. But if anyone has any closing things they want to say, feel free.
Thanks, guys. Love you guys.
I'd like to say something really quick. Just the fact that I'm really proud of you, Peter. We spoke a little bit before this. I know it was challenging, and I'm really inspired by you because I struggle to tell a lot of my story. I struggle to face it in my private moments sometimes. It was really brave what you did, and I'm so honored to be a part of this entire community and be in alignment. I love you.
I love you too.
All right, y'all. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next time. See you Thursday, same time, same bat channel. Much love, Peter. You need anything, Bubby, you call me, all right?
All right, man.
All right, bros. See you guys.
I love you, Angelo. Love you, Peter.
Love you guys.
Love you all. Thank you.
Love.